Hello, my name is Alexandria Bergman. As a child, I was always fascinated by the ocean. Its seemingly endless horizons and crushing waves would put me in a daze on a vacation to the beach. While my siblings were playing in the sand, I was walking the shoreline looking for coral that had come up during high tide. The beauty of the ocean and everything in it gained my respect quite quickly, and my heart was crushed when I grew older and learned that the ocean is dying. Over the following years, I have researched many of the different approaches and tactics to save the ocean and its inhabitants. There are certainly thousands of ideas, but only a handful have been realistic, and even less have been implemented on a large scale. Out of all of these, one concept stood out to me the most: artificial coral reefs. As many individuals already know, the world's coral reefs are at high risk. This is due to rising water temperatures, water pollution, destructive fishing, coastal development, and much more, according to the National Academy of Sciences of the United States of America. As of 2019, Earth.org reports that we have already lost half of our coral reefs over the last 3 decades, and it is expected that 90% of coral will be extinct by 2050. These alarming statistics are what inspired me to research this topic so thoroughly. Although this process of creating artificial coral reefs is difficult, the growth of new coral and subsequent housing for other marine life is absolutely necessary in order to save the ocean's environment. The concept of creating artificial housing for ocean life is certainly not new. In an article about coral reefs by the New Haven Reef Conservation, it is stated that indigenous cultures throughout the Indo-Pacific used bamboo and palm leaf structures in order to attract fish over several thousand years ago. Clearly, in this scenario, they were not aiming to grow coral reefs, but it was indeed the cornerstone of a much greater project. In the last few decades, the creation of coral reefs has become increasingly popular among researchers, philanthropists, large companies, and dedicated individuals. Unfortunately, though, not everyone researches before putting various materials into the ocean for the sake of saving the coral reefs. In order for an artificial reef structure to be successful, a lot of precautions have to be taken in regard to size, shape, and overall material of the overall structure. In the early 1970s, the famous Osborne artificial reef built in Florida dumped around 2 million tires into the sea. New Haven Reef Conservation states that 30 years later, studies showed that almost no fish were living there, and the tires were producing toxic chemicals. These misguided attempts in the past have given artificial reefs a bad reputation, which is why they are not implemented on a large scale quite often. In 1999, though, S. Clark and A.J. Edwards from the Department of Marine Sciences and Coastal Management conducted research in order to determine what the most effective way to build artificial reef structures were. They concluded that heavy, expertly shaped concrete was the best way to induce coral growth. They reported that creating crevices and hollow insides within the concrete stimulated the most coral growth as well, since coral tend to seek shade and protection inside of them. Lightweight material structures were seemingly useless, as they did not attract coral nor fish populations. Although these results are encouraging, the main challenge that comes with creating artificial reefs is the price. It is quite expensive to create these unique structures, and it is fairly difficult to place them in the ocean, especially if they have to be assembled underwater. Even if the implementation of artificial reefs are successful, it takes years for coral to cultivate and become a viable shelter for populations of fish and other marine life. So how can we effectively create artificial reefs with all of these setbacks? Well, as with any problem, a solution can present itself. Technology has advanced so much since the mid-1900s that there are now feasible options for creating artificial reefs in a cost-effective, environmentally friendly way. The main reason this is possible is due to 3D printing. Global Citizen reported on an artificial reef project by the University of Delaware in 2019, saying the 3D printed model of artificial reefs acts as a support system for the baby coral to float onto and grow upon. Over time, the biodegradable material decays and leaves only the coral. This method of creating artificial reef structures is both cost-effective and environmentally friendly. Though the process of creating artificial reefs may be challenging in many aspects, it is imperative to the survival of the ocean's environment, as well as its inhabitants. With the new technology that is now accessible, it is our duty to raise awareness and save these reefs before they become extinct forever. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope you learned something today.